I hope you've all had a good week. My capybaras have had a good week. Been breeding, as you can see. I know I found some more in the spare room, so I haven't got a piece of art for you yet this month, so I thought I'd put the extra capybaras in there to give you something to look at other than me. I've made some notes this week because I wanted to talk about something in particular that interested me. I was watching a little video from a chap who's, I think he's doing a PhD in the UK. I'm not even sure what his main subject is. He talks about all kinds of things, a little bit of philosophy. He talks about language and Old English and all kinds of things that I'm interested in. He tends to ramble a little bit too. Anyway, he did a video this week, which I will put a link to at the bottom in case anyone's interested, talking about consciousness and awareness. And one of the things he mentioned, this is sort of incidental, but you might all like to have a think about it, is that we tend to think everyone else thinks the same way that we do, so that when people talk about hearing an inner voice, there are many people, in fact, apparently the majority of people, who actually do have like an inner, almost like an inner dialogue or a monologue where they hear a voice talking to themselves as their voice or another voice, and when they have thoughts, their thoughts are expressed in this voice. Now, I don't have that, so I that seems really weird to me. I just have thoughts that express themselves as thoughts, and people who apparently think in the word kind of thinking can't understand what that's like. They think, well, how can you think if you're not using words? Well, I don't know, just do. And another thing is a thing called aphantasia, which some people have, where they actually can't picture an image in their mind. So that you ask them to imagine a lake, and they know what a lake is, but they can't visualize in their minds. And you just assume everyone can, and then it turns out a lot of people can't. So when we're communicating with each other, that we assume we're all working on the same basis, and we're very often not. I just find that really fascinating. If you find it boring, you better turn off the video. No, I'm not going to talk about that the whole time. But what I wanted to talk about, though, was perfect moments. So every now and then you get a little moment where it just seems like it's a perfect moment, and everything else in the universe almost like it seems to exist, and you never forget the moment. It doesn't always involve, it often involves the first time of a thing, but not always. So it could be something as simple as that day when the weather seemed perfect and you were sitting outside and you watched a bee on a flower and everything was peaceful and you were calm and you were happy, and that was a wonderful thing and you've never forgotten it. Or looking at a piece of art that you saw for the first time that really moved you, hearing a piece of music for the first time that really moved you, petting your pet, and cuddling your cat on a particular occasion where or another pet, riding a horse, feeling at one with a horse for the first time, grasping a mathematical concept. I have no idea what that's like, but for some people I would imagine that sort of, oh wow, like suddenly it all makes sense moment would be a perfect, unforgettable moment. Writing a poem, creating a piece of music, or doing a rap performance that seemed just perfect. Reading a passage in a book that really spoke to you. And I thought I'd just talk about a few of those things for me. There aren't that many when I think back, but some that came to mind were falling asleep for the first time with my newborn son. I had a cesarean and I had a epidural for a couple of days, and I wasn't allowed to be on my own in the room with him while the epidural was running, in case maybe I'm getting mixed up. maybe it wasn't an epidural, maybe it was a PCA, patient-controlled analgesia, where I could hit a button and give myself some pethidine. It was really nice, but I couldn't have the baby in the room with me on my own. And so after the PCA was gone, I had him in the room with me for the first time on my own. There was nobody else there. There was just us. And I was lying on the bed, and I had him lying on my chest, with head here and feet there. And I somehow wrapped the sheet or something over him, or maybe it was a towel, and tucked him in either side so he was secure. And then we both fell asleep. And it was just amazing. I've never forgotten. It was a real perfect moment. Another time was I was taken out to eat at a restaurant called the Barara Waters Inn in Sydney. I have no idea if it's still open. It used to have a famous chef there called Gabe Bilson, and I had a pear and gingerbread cake for my dessert. And it was just amazing. I remember saying, if there's food in heaven, it would taste like this. It was just incredible. Like, you know, I've been chasing it ever since. Never had anything quite so wonderful. I don't know how she did it. Another time, I was just sitting in the car. I was a passenger, and the windows were open we didn't have the air conditioning or the heating on. The temperature was just perfect. We were driving to Queensland, and I had a can of Coke, it would have probably been Diet Coke or similar, in my hand, and we were just driving up the motorway, the freeway, and everything was like everything was perfect, and there was nothing to worry about. Now I remember that very clearly. Another time, just recently, just lying in the arms of someone that you love and listening to their heartbeat, and just thinking, how lucky am I, you know, to have this, which was just wonderful. Muffin, come and get out of the way. So one of the things I remember, I won't say it's a perfect moment, but something that impacted me on this theme was a poem called Adelstrop by, I think it's by Edward Thomas. And if Muffin gets out of the way, I will read it to you. And the thing, I remember hearing this poem at school, and it was like it just took me to the moment. And he talks about steam trains. So, you know, it's a bit before my time. I think he died in First World War, Edward Thomas. He died in 1917. But he just describes this moment that obviously spoke to him enough for him to write the poem. But it was like a moment when nothing happened. And yet, I think probably while he was at the front, at the First World War, he used to look back and just remember this couple of minutes in his life. So the poem is called Adelstrop by Edward Thomas. Yes, I remember Adelstrop, the name, because one afternoon of heat, the express train drew up there unwontedly. It was late June. The steam hissed. Someone cleared his throat. No one left, and no one came. On the bare platform, what I saw was Adelstrop, only the name. And willows, willow herb and grass, and meadow sweet and haycocks dry, no whit less still and lonely fair than the high cloudlets in the sky. And for that minute a blackbird sang, close by and round him, mistier, further and further, all the birds of Oxfordshire and Gloucestershire. And that's the end of the poem. So I should say that June in the UK is summer. So I can just imagine myself sitting on this train, maybe the sound of people opening and closing windows, that slam you get, the steam train not sort of chuffing or hooting, but just hissing like they do when they're sitting there, and the birds singing and no one coming, and all these common kind of weeds and hedgerow plants and the hay in the fields. And he describes it so well, I almost feel like I could be there. Unfortunately, Adlestrop is no longer a station. During the 1960s, they had a bit of a revamp of unprofitable railway stations in the UK, and Adlestrop was one of the ones that got closed down, which seems a shame because you can't go there and sit on the platform, but you probably would never ever catch that moment anyway. So what are your perfect moments? You might like to tell me in the comments, or those of you who like to comment on Facebook, can you tell me what they are? Have a think, and in the meantime, have a lovely week. Come here. I'll say goodbye from me, and goodbye from you, and goodbye from all the capybaras. Bye bye. Oh, we didn't introduce our mug. We better just do that. In fact, we might leave it till next week because I'm running out of mugs, so I'll use the same one and I'll tell you about it then. Bye bye.